again, Oops All Dragons, your favorite D&D podcast. There are no other D&D podcasts. This is the only one.
The only one.
You're welcome. We're doing a public service here. You're welcome. I'm Lisa.
I'm Varun.
And today we're doing something real fun, real special. For us, we're doing it for the second time because we lost the recording of the first time we did this. But it's fun. Everything is better when you do it twice. So we've got my very good friend Austin, who has just DM'd his very first game of D&D ever.
Yes, I did. Hello.
And yes, that is a special thing, and we're going to talk about it. But at first, what's up with you guys? What are you been up to?
I have been doing a lot of stuff. I've been playing Don't Starve for the first time. Either of you ever played that game?
No, what's that on?
It's on Switch, but I think it was on PC and stuff before that.
Is it the cooking one?
No, not exact. It's like a survival game, but the aesthetic is like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like Edgar Allan Poe-ish. Like the art style is very outwardly looks kind of kiddie until you start interacting with like the world and you see all the animals look kind of horrifying, and there are no other humans in this world. Seemingly, there's just like pig people, and everything wants to kill you, and your whole goal is to not die.
It sounds a little Undertale-y. Maybe?
No, because Undertale's like an RPG. It's more like Binding of Isaac, more than anything. But even that's like more. That's like an arena sort of thing. You go from level to level. Where this
is like a platformer.
It's like an open world game, like a top-down kind of isometric game.
Interesting. I thought it would be a cooking game.
You cook in the game to not die, but you also have to have heat sources so you can survive through the night. And
by the end, you're a 5-star Michelin chef.
Oh, the end. I've barely like lived a couple days to like see what happens in this game. It is brutal. Like if you don't find a light source by nighttime, the darkness just kills you. Just like you just straight up die. And then there's the elements, like rain will start coming and lightning will hit the ground, and you could just get struck by lightning and potentially just die. And then like animals, like bats will just come out during the night, and they don't just look like, nondescript kind of like bat-shaped things. They look like big horrible balls with teeth, and they try to eat you. So you have to start you have to start eating. If Zubat has eyes,
that's terrifying.
Yeah. So you have to start like creating shelter, and like it's a whole thing.
So it's kind of like Minecraft.
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah, but more horrifying.
Yeah. If Minecraft was introduced to Resident Evil.
Yeah. Gameplay wise, it's a little like Binding of Isaac, but like the actual meta of the game, Minecrafty. Yeah.
Okay.
And then
good music.
Nah.
Yeah.
The music's nothing home to write home about. Like, it's like the atmosphere of just like, oh my god, I don't want to die, but I have to venture out to get food, otherwise I'm going to starve.
Yeah, because it's not like that unsettling like Resident Evil, or like kind of explorative like Minecraft. Or at least those are the only two that I like.
It can have Resident Evil moments if you go into like an unknown area and then some new thing just pops out of nowhere and you're like, I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know what to do. So I've been doing that. I've been doing some painting of a model for a build contest that I'm gonna try and enter and win for next week. Cool. So that's going good.
And for the folks keeping track at home, that is 5 minutes until Varun made a reference to some Gundam building.
Oh, it's Gundam.
5 minutes.
I thought you were talking about something else. No, yeah, those. I mean, I will say, to Varun's to boost them up, that's difficult.
You're telling
Yeah,
me.
no.
Yeah, my old college roommate made Gundam models, and he took days on those things. Or
Like,
days, weeks.
Yeah, the building of it was easy. I got that done fairly quickly. But now it's actually customizing it and painting it and making it something special for the contest. I have a whole airbrush set up, but it takes up a lot of room. I got to use some putty to clear up some scene lines. It's a whole thing. So, yeah. Well,
Look at
once
you
you've
getting hobbies.
getting, I've had these. I've been here.
Since when were you like airbrushing things?
That's new. That's a fairly new thing. I've had the airbrush for a long time, but I never had a setup to actually use it and not just get paint everywhere. So now that I do, I can actually, take advantage of it and make some cool looking stuff.
Nice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
And that's pretty much it. Oh, wow, Jesus. Time-wise, I just got back from Dragon Con. That was
Oh, conventions are happening again. That's right.
that was
Yeah.
fun and terrible. It was fun in that it's Dragon Con, and there weren't as many people as there normally are, just because of the time. Even though they were requiring proof of vaccination or negative COVID test. That was all good. I don't think there were many reports of anyone testing positive coming out of this thing, so that was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was cool. I got to go to a lot of cool panels. I got to roll like platinum dice because like one of the vendors was just a vendor selling like the most expensive dice you could ever have, made like gold and silver and platinum and stuff, and
It's
he just
like
let me
moon rock dice.
he just let me use some for a while. It was cool. Which I will buy some of those eventually when I have like $400 to just blow.
For those dice, you need to roll them with two hands, right? Because it's so heavy.
That's the thing. Some of them are pure like solid dice that you would normally roll, and yeah, they're fairly heavy. But other ones are like hollow, where it's just like brass
Or
and
like
then
filigree.
no, they're literally like hollow, and then they're just the frame of the dice, made
Ooh,
in
I know what you're
brass,
talking about.
coated in platinum or gold or whatever you choose. And those are light; those are like air. And he's like, you can throw these are tough. You can like throw them, smash them against the wall, like they'll keep their shape. And he just showed me, he just like tossed it, and it's just like nothing happened to it.
All for the cheap price of $3,000.
No, like $400.
$400.
Yeah, if you
I
have,
mean, I've seen people selling like gemstone dice, like amethyst.
I think they
dice.
had some of those too. Yeah.
Now those are probably more up there.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And those are unrollable because they're like a little bit more fragile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I'd love to be just like the worst kind of bougie
Yeah.
person and get like some diamond dice, just unbreakable diamond dice.
Oh my god. But yeah, that was
And then-
that Dragon Con was fun, but then we were working with a friend, so that part, not as fun.
Oh yeah, tabling terrible.
Yeah. But other than that, that's what I have been up to on my side.
Damn, Varun always keeps busy.
I do.
Busy. What about you, Austin? What are
Me?
you up to?
Little old me. I've had a good amount because I just finished a show that I had been working on, that we had been working on. So now I have a lot of free time. Yeah, we're not allowed to talk about. I worked on a show that does things and stuff.
People might have been
Show
in it.
that people.
People might have been in it. People might have not been in it.
There were people, places, and things.
Maybe ideas.
It may have not. It may or may not have been an animation, live action, or documentary.
I
Can't
cannot
say.
confirm nor deny that it is something that people will actually watch.
May have been shot with cameras.
Yeah, it may have been. I don't even know. It's
One or
experimental
two
stuff.
cameras.
But so apart from that, like I kind of just took some time just working on my own kind of projects. I was editing. I literally sat down with some of my friends. I colored like since we last talked, I colored 3 shorts and finished and did preliminary sound design for those, and then I did edits on 2 sketches, or technically 3 sketches. We fully did a edit for the 3rd one, and did graphics for those sketches, and and now we're about to do sound. And then apart from that, I've been playing 3 games. I was playing Final Fantasy VII remake.
Okay.
And then it's interesting though, because I'm not the type to. I'll get to this point because this is gonna lead up. But I'm not the type to replay games, which is funny because right now I'm replaying 2 games. But for Final Fantasy VII remake, I love the game, love going through it. Playing it a second time, it's difficult to get through because I'm like, I have to get through this again. I have to go through this like the robot hand thing where I'm like, all right, let's just like get to the thing where I want to be. Like I want to get the stuff. And then I was playing, which is kind of the reverse aspect of that. I was playing Fallout, but
okay.
And the funny
Which
thing
one?
about Fallout 4.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've just been kind of playing that game, just doing random things, kind of like not really playing the game, but playing the world. Like building stuff, building the communities, seeing what like other things are like trying to find the magazines, because there's literally so much you can do in that game that I didn't really know, and so now I'm just kind of going around. And then also like since playing D&D, it's funny because like now I go to upgrade my character and it's like, what would you like to upgrade? Your strength, your dexterity, your charisma, your intelligence.
Mm-hmm. You see
and
that?
I'm like, oh my gosh, it's all the same stuff. Like this is just it's always the same. And then yeah, and then the other I just started playing, have not gotten through it because I'm not very good at platformers. I started playing Hollow Knight because of this one here.
I have Hollow Knight. I just haven't played it yet.
Yeah, I haven't gotten fully into it yet, but it is that thing where I'm not shocked, but it's like you play a game and you like in Final Fantasy, you know what to do. Or like even in RPGs, you get a move set, you're attacking the monster. Usually the game will kind of lead you in the direction so you know where to go. Whereas these platformers, like I come down, there's this big beetle dude with a giant sword, and I'm just like, what the fuck do I do? Like I have no idea what to do, and I have to figure it out.
You hit it and you die, and you hit it and you die until you finally figure it out. Like, yeah, and that's really the name of the game with Hollow Knight. Oh my god, I can't talk about it.
Well, like, and then
the game will put you through the ringer until you learn exactly what it is that you need to do, and it's a lot of it is patience. A lot of the like bigger enemies, it's not just about wailing on them. It's like you have to hit them and then pull back and then let them do their things, and you have to avoid their attacks.
Bloodborne.
And then you hit them.
Yeah.
And like something where like it's Bloodborne. It's I was reading an article about it, and it was billed as the God, what is that game that every game gets compared to?
You're what?
Dark Souls. It's the Dark Souls of platformers. And like, yes. The thing is,
I feel like Cuphead is the dark.
I was gonna say, like, you have Cuphead, you have Dead Cells. Dead Cells is almost a direct Dark Souls sort of system parallel as well.
And we'll see how Metroid does. I feel like Metroid looks like it's going to be really.
I think it'll be a Metroid game, not really a Dark Soulsy type of thing.
Yeah, well, because the one that I played a while ago was was it with Cal Kestis, the Star Wars
Fallen Order,
and that was the first time when because I had played. It was actually funny. My mother, who is would hate Dark Souls as a game itself, bought me Dark Souls when I was a kid because it had good reviews, and she didn't really look into what the game was.
Okay.
And so I played it, and I hated it. Because I was just like, this is such a difficult game.
It's so goddamn
I don't know
hard.
how to get where I need to be. And then I played that game, Fallen Order, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then I played God of War, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually really fun, because it gives you the tools, and then you can use it instead of being like, this is how you attack, press these 2 buttons. And it's a mixture of Dark Souls with a fighter game, because now you have like these combos that you can do to be able to be creative, but you don't have to be, but it does help to be. And it gives you so much satisfaction, because it gives you that satisfaction of beating someone in like a Street Fighter type game with the story of an RPG, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Which, speaking of which, the 2 things that I just wanted to bring, because this is something that just happened, which I was super excited about, was God of War Ragnarok. And my one, my true, my only love, literally my favorite freaking video game is being remastered, and I am so
KOTOR?
excited. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I played that game 5 times.
Oh yeah.
And I don't replay games. And I've played that because someone contacted me and they were like, oh, like KOTOR is getting a remake. I was going to play the old one, but I think I'll just wait. And I was like, don't you dare. Play that game now, because you will literally have so many feelings. Like I can tell you right now, I will, like more than I did with Final Fantasy VII, because it's literally going to be so nostalgic, and it's going to be so cool. And like, I don't know what they're going to do. I hope they don't mess it up.
I just hope they take the KOTOR story, bring it into modern gaming just sensibilities of just making it stuff a little smoother.
Yeah.
Hopefully give it a little more flash, because sometimes the combat would get kind of repetitive.
Give it a little bit more Blizzak.
Sure.
Like that, and then the pod racing. Like I am so excited to do a non-linear pod racing like updated thing. Like it's literally the equivalent of someone remastering Blitzball for me. I freaking loved Blitzball.
There was
like,
pod racing in KOTOR?
Yeah.
There
was a whole thing where you would go to the you would go to,
I know you went to Tatooine.
Well, there was a bunch. So it's what was it? Everywhere you go, you can gamble. So you can either gamble with cards,
I remember
or
Sabak.
you can, and then you can fight with the Hutts. And then there was another one that was it wasn't pod racing, but it was you're in a cart with like the 2 front things, and it looked like pod racing. And they improved upon it on the second game.
I might vaguely remember this. I remember the story bits from KOTOR. It's been a long time since I played them.
Oh, it's so vivid in my memory. I have it on my phone and on my computer. I have the originals, which I'll probably will play those soon after I do more stuff with Fallout. But then to wrap it all up because I'm taking up so much time, is apart from that stuff, the work that I'm doing next that I'm looking forward to in the future is I'm writing more not writing more sketches. My friends who are funny are writing more sketches, and I'm filming them because I'm not as funny as them. And then we're also doing, I'm working on a haunted house that I'm really excited about. I got my costume fitting for it. I'm getting my eyes measured for custom contact lenses.
It's nearly Halloween.
Yeah.
It's a good spooky time.
Yeah, so it's the House of Spirits, and they're doing it here, Chicago, and New York. Not Chicago, Dallas and New York. So excited to do that. LA. Yeah, and then I'm also working. I believe I'm working a Fortnite event soon for the same company. I don't know what, but they told me that I'm coming in. I'm probably going to be Guaco the Taco again, who is a cool skin that I got to wear at an event that they did recently, and it's so nice because that's like you were saying with the events. As those start to come back, I get to start working at the events, and on my off time, get to go roam around the events. So it'll be lots of fun going back to that. But that's pretty much all I'm working on.
Yeah.
What about you, Lisa?
Oh my God. Oh, please ask less. Actually,
You're working
since
on a
you-
show that may or may
That
not
is-
have a camera.
Yeah, adjacent to the other show, and I feel like that's already giving away too much.
Or
It's a-
maybe it's not. I don't know.
it's
Or
a
maybe
show
not.
that may have one or more humans involved.
And
That's
like,
giving away way too
maybe,
much.
Yeah, maybe one or more things that are not humans. There are costumes and shoes.
Set pieces.
And
I think there's a
set
rock in it.
pieces. There's at least 2 rocks.
Yeah.
Not the rock, as far as I
No,
know.
not the
I
rock.
can tell you that much.
I mean, he could be in it. I don't know.
But like the mineral kind, made out of styrofoam to look like the mineral kind. You know, the magic of filmmaking. Yeah, I just started a new job. It's a fun time. Labor Day weekend, I went out and did some clurbing, like so many people do. It's the first time I went out in a long time, and I evaded the things that I needed to evade, but I did catch a cold, so I'm raspy.
A
It's
cold
great.
that you confirmed is a cold because you took 2
Yes,
tests.
it is. It is 100% a cold and nothing else, and
Yeah.
it's fine. Yeah, that. I don't know. I feel like I've been so busy, but I've also like I have nothing to speak for. Like I moved into a new apartment. I did some shopping. I don't know.
And you have a really
I've
great
had-
sofa.
I have a really great sofa that
A
is
great,
going
not
to,
too heavy sofa.
that is going to stay in that apartment when I move out. And I'm going to get a new one. Because
To put a little
that-
context in there, I had to lift that thing up with her old roommate, and it was quite the time.
Yeah. You know what I discovered is that so the service elevators, the one that you know how there's the 2 of them? There's the left one and the right one. We kept taking the right one. The right one is smaller than the left one. The left one would have been big enough to put the sofa in.
That's stuff you don't tell me.
Did y'all
Yeah,
take
I
that sofa
found
like
this out.
up the stairs?
Yes,
4
we
flights
did.
of stairs with
Oh
me.
no!
Yeah.
Yes, we did. Oh, yes, we did. Flip that thing like a domino.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Other than that, I like the thing. I'm also working on some other stuff. Like so, I have my sewing machines back in my apartment, so I'm like doing some sewing, and I got hired to do like a thing that I signed an NDA for, so I can't actually talk about it until it comes out. But when it comes out, I'll definitely plug it. But it's something very, very cool that I'm very, very excited about. Like, even though it's technically like a smaller thing than like my main job, like it's something that I'm like way more excited about. Like, can't wait to actually be able to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fun time. I don't know. I've been busy, but I also haven't done anything exciting. Like, it's just working 60 hours a week, and then I had like one wild weekend. I haven't
What are you
had
talking
time to
about?
enjoy any media. My TV has been sitting on my floor. I still have not put it up. It's great. It's a great time.
You're about to do something super fun today.
Well, today I get to play Dungeons and Dragons with Austin as my DM, and this is going to be the second session, and that's actually what we're here to talk about, is the first session of this campaign. Austin, you,
Yes.
it was your first game of D&D at all ever, right? Sort of?
It was my first hosting. I have, in terms of history playing, I have done Call of Cthulhu once with a friend, and I did a one-shot during COVID and lockdown that I wasn't able to finish because I was only able to come in for like a limited amount of time. But it was lots of fun, and like I was really excited to start my own, which is its own story in of itself of how I came to it. But and so yeah, so like last week, or not last week, maybe like 2 weeks ago, we started our first session, did our first run through of it, and it would like, I mean, that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah. So yeah, like, let's get into it. So you're running Minds of Fandelver, and you're planning to run it into your own thing, right? You're gonna tie it into your own story.
Because
yeah.
So
Get
yeah,
into
because
it.
I consider myself a creative. I love creating. I love anything that has to do with the arts. Even if I can't do it well, I try it and I fail, and then I'm like, that was cool. And the big thing which I've been taking on recently is Dungeons and Dragons. And so we started doing this game recently, and I guess to give you an idea of how it came to be, as soon as COVID hit, of course, everyone doesn't have anything to do. You're kind of out of a job. You're not doing much. I was driving around a lot doing Instacart and driving around for a coffee company called Alfred. And so I had a lot of time in the car. And I ended up buying, when I was at Target for no reason, because that's what you do when you're in a pandemic. I was just perusing the gaming section, and I was like, D&D, I should give that a try. Like, it's a creative thing. I saw an episode on Community about D&D. I think there were 2 of them, and it was, and they were great. Like, it didn't feel like they were doing too much. They didn't really have to cut away to now they're in a forest and they're doing things. Like, I was like, it's so interesting how much they captivated me just sitting at this table and letting your imagination go wild. And so I decided to give it a shot, and I don't know how I did, but I stumbled upon Critical Role, and I started
you
listening.
You probably put D&D podcasts into
and it's like
search engine.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, YouTube was probably listening to me talk about D&D, and then it was just like, you should watch this.
Yeah.
And so I started listening to Critical Role. I got through the entire first campaign. I listened to so much Critical Role that Spotify said that my most listened thing was Critical Role. I think I listened to so many, I listened to a week worth of Critical Role from
wow.
dusk till from 24-hour days. I listened to that during the pandemic, and I got through the whole thing of campaign 1. And my mind was always thinking I ended up buying the books. I ended up reading. I read through the entire player's handbook aside from the spells, because my ADD started going rampant, and I was like, I can't just read each spell.
Yeah.
And so I started kind of just consuming it, and since I wasn't able to play, I listened, and I tried to figure out how it worked. Listening to Matthew Mercer describe things, listening to when they do guest ones and how they run the game, and just the players and how they're doing it, and the story of it all. And I'm a big fan of RPGs. It's one of my favorite types of games. So I just love the idea. So I bought the books, I read them. I bought the Minds of Fandelver pack, and I just wanted to get it together. So I got some people together, and as I'm pretty sure every DM can attest to, I got some people. Some of those people left, and then we got new people.
Yeah.
And the cycle continues. Because
somewhere in there, you made a friend at your work who was like,
it's
hey,
true.
I actually have a podcast. You should listen to it.
And I did.
Because I actually think, when we first started talking at work is when you were just about almost done with campaign 1
yes.
of Critical Role. And we would talk
I was
about it.
I was, spoiler warning, I was inside the Titan, and that's, I think, where I was.
Yeah, which is towards the end. It's the last 5 episodes or so.
It's the last chapter.
It's the last arc.
Yeah. It's the last stop on this
time.
Train station, if you catch my drift.
No.
I'm trying to bring it back.
Time.
No.
All you people didn't get to hear my train puns in the last one, so I'm going to do my darndest to get them chugging along.
Our terrible
You can't
train.
do a callback to something nobody knows about.
Just something that
Exactly.
didn't happen, technically.
But now people will wonder what the hell that is.
What about the trains?
What was the train?
What about the train?
What about the trains? That's going to be the ultimate mystery we will leave you behind with today, listeners, is... What was this thing about the trains?
You'll have to bring me back to talk about the trains. But yeah, and so meeting you and I met Christina
Ariel. She was
and she was great.
She was one
kept
of
on
the people who may or may not have been in the thing that we may or may not have worked on.
Yeah, and she talked to me, and I started talking about D&D, and she was just like, "You just need to play the game," because I was like prepping, getting things together, and she was like, "You just need to play the game, and I was just like, "Okay,
right.
I'll do it,"
and
I did.
It.
And that brings us to
It's so validating. It's so validating to hear like other like professional D&D players, I guess, be like, "Yeah, you just gotta do it."
Yeah.
That is the same advice I gave you when you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to. Like Lisa, you just have to go. You just have to run the game. That's the only way you're gonna know.
Yeah, and so that's what I did, and so because like I was coming up with like these extensions and things that I wanted to do because I was trying to build an extra arm on this world, and I came up with like on Faerun. So like the idea of it's the Sword Coast, and I added like big because like in the mines of Phandelver, there's not really too many big cities, and so I ended up adding two, which one of them is already in the place, which is Neverwinter, and then the other one is Hillgaze, which is a place that was created off of one of the players who came in. And so I ended up creating this whole new kind of more medieval place that's a bit more the matriarchal king, the advisor, and like I still have so much more to kind of create in terms of like before you guys get there, like in terms of reading through the Dungeon Master Guide, like is it a magical place? Is it a like do they like what is their population made
basically
up of?
apply the sperm method.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And to give an example, because this is something that I learned from doing my first session. I might be getting ahead of myself here.
No,
but
you're exactly on the right track here.
Yeah. And so I'm bringing in a new player for tonight's game, and I took some advice that you guys told me on the last one, which I took it to heart, and I figured it out, which was don't put so much on yourself and try to hand off things to certain players. And so I ended up bringing in this new character who I kind of gave him a cornerstone of where he is in the world, and then I said, like, you are from a place called Yatar. Make of that what you will. Like, let me know what you describe your character as, what his accent is, how you dress, and then if you talk about certain things about Yatar, I'm going to go off that, and I'm going to kind of mold whatever it is that you're coming up with off whatever your imagination is, and then we can go from there. Because then for me, I don't have to be like sitting at home all day being like, what's Yatar? Like, what's their government system? Like, all of a sudden he might say something of be like, oh yeah, like the Sultan of Yatar, or like the Council of Yatar, and then I'll be like, they are a council.
There we go.
I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And so all I have to do is take diligent notes.
Yeah, letting your players take some, ownership of, the place that their character is from is also going to help them,
get invested.
Get more invested and fold themselves into the story more, and make them care more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And speaking of folding, though, how I felt the first game, slightly in my head, was how David from Schitt's Creek felt when he was folding. I'm not sure how many people will get that. But when he was just like, I don't know how to fold. What do you mean fold? So that was my mental state the first time we played, because all the prep didn't
Doesn't
it
prepare
didn't amount to anything.
Yeah, it's a common saying, and it's usually applied for like within the game of like the players encountering like an enemy, but it also goes for like the DM encountering their party, and it's
Yep.
no
Yeah.
plan survives the encounter with the enemy. Like, and not to say that your players are your enemy, you know, that's
course
not a
not.
good mindset to have, but it's that thing of like, yeah, you can plan all you want, but you can't fully predict what these other human people are gonna do. Especially something that I noted on our last in our first session is that like the party that we have, they're a little chaotic. It's a little
And they're new, right?
they're new, and the vibe is very much leaning feral.
Oh boy.
Yeah, there's I'm like hoping that this new character you're bringing in is gonna bring a little bit more balance to that, but right now we're leaning feral.
They're on the road to murder hoboing.
I don't know. Yeah, yeah. Which is fine and can be fun, but you know, it's where that like, if you see that that's the direction that's going in, and that's not necessarily the game that you want to run, like, you gotta find those agents of chaos and go, okay, wait, what are you doing? What do you want? Like, how can I get you to play the game differently? Basically, like, you as the DM should not think of your players as your enemy, but, you know, they are creative variables that are unpredictable, and you have to, you know, be able to emotionally prepare yourself to relinquish the sort of control, and just, like, understand that, like, you're gonna plan something, and it's not gonna go the way you plan it.
Yeah.
From our
Like-
initial conversation, it's like it seems like you fell into some of the new dungeon master pitfalls of plan too much. Did you guys have a session 0?
Yes.
Set expectations about what tone of game you're going for.
Yeah. And so, because the interesting thing was for that, which was interesting on my end, was the fact that nobody, since everyone in my campaign is new, everyone was just like, just a game, really. I was just like,
Just a game,
yeah,
bro.
okay. So it's kind of like figuring out, I guess as I play, I'll kind of work on that and like see
Yeah.
where people start to gravitate towards, if they start
Yeah.
going, because like like, speaking of expecting the unexpected, Svarog, I can say it now.
Yes.
Who's one of our characters. He is a dragonborn barbarian, and he just enjoys yelling all the time,
And
even if you're
murder.
on a stealthy mission. Yeah, and murder. He loves beheading. And so that's something
He
that
is
like
our murder hobo. I'm like,
Yeah.
so far his characterization is murder hobo. And that, yeah, like, you as the DM, you decide what you're gonna do with that. It's
oh yeah.
I'm not
Well,
gonna tell you what to do.
How you test it too to kind of make it so honest, because like whether I make it harder, because like I was happy with my reaction to how I did it, because like the interesting thing was is it made it harder for you guys in that instance, because instead of just fighting 3 dogs, you were like, and a goblin that's freeing the dogs, you're now fighting 3 extra goblins because they heard you, and now you put the rest of the camp on alert. So like now it's going to be a little bit harder to get in because of that. But like, and then that also for me, the thing that makes me happy is his consistency with it allows for you guys now, especially the new players, to do something about that. To be like, I cover his mouth. And then like I can now let you guys play against each other. And then it makes it for me a bit more interesting because now I can be like, all right, now I got these dynamics of these characters. Because like it's boring if everyone's just going to try to play the game and like get like what is it? Get the girl, kill the dragon,
Be
like
as optimal as possible.
I
like
will.
the
Basic.
I will say I have been that exact same role in the exact same position because a friend of mine was running Lost Mines of Phandelver, and he had a bunch of it was like a work game, a bunch of folks from work playing, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to play this game?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Like, what's going on?" They're playing Lost Mines, so like, how long you been playing? Like 3 sessions, so like they're not done. And he's like, they're very careful. And they were definitely being the let's sneak around, let's like be really really super careful about everything. And I'm just like, all right, you want the game to move forward? Cool. I'm a dragonborn barbarian. I'm a red dragonborn, so I breathe fire. I get in there and I start screaming, and I have a horn. I start blowing the horn. And I'm like, yo, come at me, bruh. And that was my introduction to my character. And they're just like, what?
It's definitely a role that is appreciated and valuable at times, and it adds that excitement. There's definitely a like, oh god, we could approach this carefully, but we've got this guy on the team, and so that like we have to sort of like, I don't know, it adds that flavor.
It's good to have a party that's not just everyone trying to play the game, quote unquote, play the game the best, but like, play your character. And his character is be loud and be violent, and it's up to you all to rein him in if you're going to.
Yeah. Cool, because like, and it's like everyone's gonna remember Claptrap.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's gonna remember that character that did that thing that's pretty crazy, or like the and then it also helps me because then I can kind of like, now I have a little bit more of like, especially with his background, which honestly he stuck pretty true to his background of where he's from, because he's from like a which, Lissa, forget you heard this.
I heard nothing.
He's from a tribe of dragonborn that worship Tiamat, and they have a Hunger Games arena where it's a clan of 4 dragonborn clans, and they submit their strongest warriors to fight in this like, so pretty much it's this basin of a mountain with a giant kind of obelisk tower type structure that's like black and marble-ish type thing with a forever flame that's burning up top above it, and it looks down on this valley, this basin that holds water, and then like a circular arena that has like hills, mountains, and forests, fields, and they just send things there to just fight, and then whoever wins becomes the prophet of Bahamut, and not Bahamut, of Tiamat.
I was gonna say,
yeah,
that was
damn.
the opposite.
And so that was the thing, and I won't say how Svarog incorporated into that, but we came up with a little thing that made his character a little bit more, because like that's the thing, is he's a chaotic neutral character, but he comes from a society that is very what is it, like
lawful
like,
evil?
Yeah, lawful, like not really, no, not lawful, chaotic.
They're following
evil, really.
Tiamat.
Yeah,
chaotic neutral, probably.
Yeah, but like they are definitely the more type to be that aggressive, like especially as you guys will play the game, if you meet anybody who knows, because like that was the thing that I've established, that's like, what is this world about? And the one thing is that this world does not appreciate Dragonborn. Dragonborn are seen as brutes. They are seen as barbarians. They are terrifying. Like they are orcs, but more like strategic. Like they're like the Uruk-hai of this world. And so he's kind of he's trying to, like, he's a very big personality, but doesn't know yet that will get him into trouble in towns, and that will so like when he comes to a social scenario, people are going to be a lot more closed off to him because of what he looks like, especially because he's a what is it? He's a chromatic dragon, which is the color of Tiamat. So not many people will like open up to him and that kind of stuff. But it's like doing that kind of thing because it's so much fun to kind of to base it off of what they're doing. And like that's one thing which I'm going to plan on doing today is trying to, like, the one thing that I learned from last time is take my time, commit to what I'm doing. If because like the one thing which I like doing is I'm by no means someone who's good at accents. I'm gonna do it. I'm probably gonna fail, but it should be fun to just kind of mess around and do it, and try to take my time. So if someone asks me a question, I don't have to respond with something witty or something interesting. I just have to respond as I would respond. So like if someone peeps through a hole to see something, I have to take a moment to be like, what do they see? Like, because that's not in the book. Like I'm not gonna know what's going on. Like if they're alarmed and they're trying to hide, and maybe there's like a goblin that's kind of fucking it up, and then like the big boss picks him up and kicks him across the room, and then like runs to his position, and that's pretty much it. Like I just described like a small scenario or something, but something that just makes it more, because like that's the thing that I want, that I'm working at. And the big thing which I've learned is failure is key to learning.
Yeah.
The one thing I've learned and known for many years.
I mean, you only fail a D&D session when people aren't having fun.
Yeah.
If the people playing are having fun, and this is not only for D&D but for most things, if you make some sort of error or you mess up something but the party doesn't realize it, then like it doesn't particularly matter.
Yeah. It's something that we learn in theater, you know. It's like if you flub a line, you miss a note or something, the audience does not know, they do not care. Just keep it pushing. Don't make a face, don't bring attention to it, just keep it going, and everyone's gonna have a good time, and you know, you just roll with it.
Yeah. Like
Roll with the punches.
There's been however many times that I've ruled a spell one way, then someone tells me, oh, this is how it goes. I'm like, oh, okay, from now on we'll rule it like that, but you know, that last thing, you know, will stand. And like everyone just like, okay, yeah, because I don't know what all the spells in the book do, because that'd be insane. And you know, that's not to you like trying to read all the spells. It's just like there's a lot.
There's a lot. It is interesting though to see the repetition in some, because like I'm pretty sure, and I'm not like a philosopher of D&D by any means, but like if someone,
that's the name of this podcast is D&D
philosophy. And so it was, but if you read a lot of the things, you start to notice consistencies, and you start seeing like, okay, so like if like for me, now that I think about it, 10 foot falls or anything that is like blunt force from a distance is probably going to be 1d6 of damage. And so like trying to think of that type of thing, and then running with that, because then like once you have it, then that's what it's going to be, and then testing it out in game and seeing if it works, because like that's the thing that I'm learning right now is just go with it. Say something, and then like give something a price, and then like after you, because like if you've done your research and you know what the world's gonna cost and that kind of thing, then you can just kind of make it up and then see if it's gonna work. And then if all of a sudden like your party has a really hard time buying potions, that potion seller went out of business because nobody was buying potions because he charged way too much.
Something that we brought up, you know, in the first version of this podcast, but we'll bring it up here again, is you in the time since we recorded this the first time, have you gone back and like messaged the players and asked for any feedback?
Yes.
Ah.
Did you
So,
get any?
No.
Fair enough. Their new
damn
players are not going to really know what to tell you.
Yes, I mean the biggest one is from you guys, because that was like one of the biggest things about doing the podcast for me was like getting the feedback, knowing, like, talking it through and seeing what worked, what didn't. And like I talked to a few people. I even asked Victoria, who's one of our Ari the rogue,
The pacifist
rogue, who will not kill someone, which might honestly make it an interesting story point, because she let one of the goblins get away. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see where that goes.
She's
'cause
got
that'll
that
become a
kind
fun little
of-
thing.
She's got that kind of Batman morality where it's like, she won't kill somebody. But if it just so happens that, like, they're in a car that blows up,
Yeah.
like, that's not her problem.
Exactly. Well, or if she what is it? Shoots someone in
Dangerously
the
maims
ankle.
somebody.
Yeah, dangerously maims someone with, or what is it? Like in the leg by literally like blasting off their ankle with a natural 20, and then they're crawling away, and then she's just like, "Oh, let Svarog take care of this,"
Yeesh.
and then another beheading.
Listen, we let Svarog have his fun, okay?
Yeah.
But did you get any feedback from her?
Yeah, so she said she had lots of fun, and a lot. The funny thing is that a lot of them, since they're also new players, were concerned about their own, because they were like I'll start getting into it once I start understanding how to play the game, more and more as they play more, and they're like, okay, because like there were times when people were wanting to do certain things of like trying to. I forget what it was. There was a specific example where they were trying to do something that was physical, but using their traits to do it.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of like, well, if you want to do that, that's like a different thing.
Yeah.
That you'd have to try, and if you want to, you can do this. Like, so I gave them the kind of like an avenue to be like, do you want to try to reason with them? Do you want to? Because I think, she was trying to predict what the person was going to do with their intelligence, I think. And so like I was just kind of like, I don't like it's, and then like my reasoning was it's 6 seconds, so to predict, like you can kind of look around and see what people are going to do. Like if you want to make a perception check, you can kind of like look to see how he's looking, like in a quick second how you look around. You can kind of like make in like an intuition check and try to see if he's eyeing the door, or if he's wanting to, like, if he's reaching for his sword, getting ready to go back for another blow. But that's going to take up your action to, like, look for that, because you only got 6 seconds.
Yeah. What I noticed is that they fell into something that, like, new players tend to do, is they focus too much on their, like, skill table, and they're trying to, like, they're trying to tell you what it is that they want to roll, and you have to tell them, like, no, what is it you want to do, and then I'll tell you what you're gonna roll
what
for
to
it.
do.
Because something that
Because they can do anything.
because you can do anything you want. What is it that you're trying to do? Don't worry about what skill it's gonna use. I'm gonna tell you what skill it's gonna use. And something that, like, you know, with time players begin to understand is that, like, just because, let's say, you know, it's I'll use a sort of like quote unquote real life like allegory for it. It's like, you know, just because you're not good at something doesn't mean you don't try to do it anyway. So like, you know, just because I'm not good at dancing doesn't mean I'm not gonna try and do it anyway. Just because I'm not good at lying doesn't mean I'm not gonna try to do it anyway. So you don't always, a person won't always just do the things that they're good at. They're gonna do what makes sense for them in that moment, and like, and then, you know, maybe, I try to, you know, do something, and you tell me, oh, that's an intelligence check, and then it's like, oh, that's a -1. But this is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
This is what makes sense for me trying to do. You're telling me, okay, that's an intelligence check, and I'm going to roll that. So that's something that, like, again with time, and you as the DM, you have to be the one to give that guidance of like, don't like, guide them to say like, what describe to me what it is that you're trying to do. And in that same way, because then that paints a picture of the moment. It's not because it's not like an RPG video game where you're like on a selection menu screen, or you've got like a certain key combination that you're gonna do like a move set. It's you're a person making a choice, and then there is the game aspect of the dice. And in that same way, in that same vein of like having them describe what it is that they're doing, my main feedback was for you to ask, what does that look like when a person says, I hit him with my axe, or I cast this, or I do that.
Because even with
get
magic,
your players involved in that.
With magic, people can have the same spells, but if one's a wizard and one's a sorcerer, they can flavor it so that their magic looks different or looks unique to them, and that gives them a little investment in how their magic works and their character in general. And just to piggyback on the description thing, if someone says, if you ask them, okay, it's your turn, what do you do? And they say, I want to roll perception. the comparison could be, how would you roll perception in real life? You would look around. So have them describe it like that if you get pushback, or if you just want to be snarky. I've given folks that sometimes. But especially when it comes to perception and insight, folks will use that as kind of a blanket. Either perception, I want to notice everything, or insight, I want to use that as a lie detector, which is not really what those skills are for. It's like perception is, if someone wants to roll perception, I'll be like, okay, what are you looking for? Because you don't have eyes in the back of your head. So what exactly are you looking for here? And insight, you're not going to just, all of a sudden know someone's backstory from a dice roll. Like, what are you trying to suss out from nonverbal clues in this person?
You ask a question with intention, not intentions.
Not, you try to make it so it's less gamified, and all the skills mean something. If it's Arcana, something like Arcana, which is detached from the normal world, but it's in the actual D&D world. What about magic are they trying to figure out? That sort of thing. Not just,
and that's
give them the book.
That's something that I'm working with a new character who's coming in, who's a warlock. It's going to be, because like the one thing which I like about the idea of a warlock more and more, because I didn't like warlocks at first when I was reading about them.
Ooh, shots to Lissa.
I know.
Shots fired.
But the more I read about them, because like the interesting thing, the person who kind of brought it around for me, two people actually, was Baldur's Gate 3. You got the Blade of Frontiers, and then what's the guy from Campaign 2? The half orc.
I don't know who you're talking about. I don't watch Critical Role.
So it's just a character that you learn, because like the interesting thing is, which I told this new player, which like I'm kind of realizing, you're nobody when you start the game.
Pretty much.
You're an adventurer. Like you're someone who is not even so much looking for adventure. You're called to adventure, and then you take it. And so if you were a warlock, if you were a wizard, if you are a rogue, you aren't those things. You're working to become those things. And so incorporating that, because that's something that I can not control, but something that I can work with depending on which direction you go. So like if the one thing which I told the warlock is I said, think about the thing that made you want to sell yourself to get this power. What was the thing that, because like that's all you know right now. Whether or not it worked, you have no idea. You just know that one day you woke up and you have powers and that you're able to do magic. and then I can kind of come in now and start to do those things that this is something I listened to in the most recent one of Critical Role, when they talk about they move everyone else out from the table and they let the warlock, he has like a fever dream, and there's no roles in it. It's just this description of what you see and this mystery person who now seems to have power over you, and then that's it. And then now you give this person something to hold, and like I'm not going to be doing that anytime soon because they still need to explore and find themselves, and then once I do that, then I can start bringing it in, and that's my way of taking Minds of Phandelver and start turning it into its own adventure. Because then now what are you going to do when you get approached by the thing that is that owns your soul?
Like, what's it going to ask for?
Yeah, and then how are you going to call to that, and will your friends help? And like, even if they are your friends, because right now, like, our characters are definitely more acquaintances than friends. They haven't had an experience, they're just doing a job. And it's that interesting thing of, like, even as a character, asking yourself, why am I doing this? Like, why throw myself after this dwarf for 50 gold?
Yeah.
Which at level 1 is a decent amount of money.
Yeah, and so that's the thing, which is interesting. So like with this character, I gave him a goal, I gave him a goal that was part of the story, like the main story that I haven't created, but the aspect of bringing him in, because like also it helps because you guys took a big hit because now you're like depleted spells and you can't really take a long rest, because if you take a long rest they'll probably they'll find you.
Find them when you're sleeping.
You're just like, I'm gonna go take a rest, and then like right in this cave right next to the baddies. But it's and then like I guess to take this into a new direction now, like the game tonight, I'm mostly just excited to play and start to get, because like the thing which I talked about last time was that Kishōtenketsu, which I would love to talk about again. So that
on mic.
Hear. Yeah, on mic, instead of to myself in my own room. Because I've been reading this book, or I finished reading this book called The Psychology of Final Fantasy, Surpassing the Limit Break. And it's just a bunch of Final Fantasy nerds who also are smart. And they talk about the psychology of Final Fantasy. And one of them talks about the structure of Kishōtenketsu, which, so then I don't get it wrong, I'll read it here. So Kishōtenketsu's storytelling structure is based in Chinese, Korean, and Japanese culture narratives. It compromises an introduction, development, twist, and conclusion to tell a complete story focusing on protagonists and their specific plights. And so that's the cool thing about it. And you see it in a lot of Miyazaki films, you see it in a lot of JRPGs, and you see it in a lot of D&D games, of this this introduction, this key, which you get the turning point, which is not really the turning point for the ending of the story, but is just a turning point to introduce your characters. And then you have the show, which is pretty much what it is, which is the development. You finish that first thing, you come home to your family, you learn about where they're from, how they got their powers, if they were an outcast, if they were a sailor, their adventures that they've done.
Sailors, you say?
Yes, sailors, train conductors, if you were a conductor in a train or a band.
Sailors, sailors. I mentioned this last time, and I will mention it again. The perfect example of the Kishōtenketsu that I've ever seen is One Piece. One Piece, Lisa.
But the only problem with One Piece that I will say is that they're stuck in the show. They haven't gotten to the Ketsu yet.
They're getting there.
They'll get there at some point, because then the Kisho 10. So the 10 is the twist, which is the thing that Luffy lacks, ironically.
Being a twisty boy himself.
Yeah, being a twisty boy, he just doesn't know how to twist a story.
Well, I think the twist happened in the first half of the show when his brother dies.
True.
That's the first time he fails for real.
If it ended there, then yes. But so you have the twist, which is the like, for those who watched Critical Role, is when Vecna gets involved, and when, I mean, like, you could even say this for all of the story arcs that they do, where they start getting into the Conclave and Vecna, and so, like, pretty much I would say the twist of the whole story is when they find that portal and underneath the keep in what's his name, Whitestone. Yeah. And so it's that thing of like, okay, now we're on this adventure. Like, now we are rogues, we are paladins, we are warlocks, and we want to, and now we're going on this adventure, which is now the hero's journey that we all know. And then the Ketsu, which is the conclusion, which wraps up the entire thing. And like, the coolest thing about this book that talks about is it talks a lot, is like, it's mostly based in Final Fantasy, which deals with a lot of ultimate good and ultimate evil. And when you run a game in D&D, a lot of the, not stereotypical, but kind of like the basic things are the good versus evil, the life versus death, or as the book puts it, Thanatos versus Eros, which is, as everyone knows, big baddie Thanos. He loves death. So that's why that's something that kind of blew my mind. I was like, maybe that's where they got the name.
The name?
His brother is named Eros.
Is it?
Yeah, his brother Firefox, his actual Titan name is Eros.
Oh my gosh. I think we just broke all of Marvel. But yeah, so he's
just
probably
wait till the Eternals come out, man, and you realize that all their names are just like, portmanteaus pastiche of like mythological god names. Yeah. Jack Kirby was on some shit when he made them.
He was also reading some good books. But yeah, so like, that's the thing, is like, it talks about this forever battle between life and death, and like how you can't have one without the other. And so like, that's where you can have a little bit of fun, because now you have those big baddies. Like in the Mines of Fandelver, you have the Black Spider, who's the big bad, and to me, he's just a piece. That's the thing which I think of. He exemplifies that, but I need to give him a reason to fight. Why is he doing what he's doing? Because like Sephiroth in Final Fantasy, he fights for Thanatos because he wants to end the world's suffering. And what better way to end the world's suffering than to wipe it out? And so it doesn't have to suffer anymore. And so it's that thing where like, people are like, like these people who are like crazy, like it's so stupid, like no one would ever do that. And it's just like, when you look at the best villains, it's always those types of people. Like Thanos trying to wipe, like they're doing something to serve, to help, but they're just misguided in their attempts, or their view is distorted. And
a villain who thinks what they're doing is right, is a good villain.
Yeah.
Doesn't make them right.
And there's also,
but
and there's also got to be that understanding that like, villains are every character in a narrative, and this is like where that like sort of like screenwriting, like writing nerd kind of brain kicks in, is like, every character in a narrative serves as a piece to sort of prove a point in one way or another. So like, when people try to like, ascribe regular real life morality to fictional characters, it doesn't work, because it's like, no, of course I don't actually condone murder, but like I enjoy this character because like, they, play the part that they need to play within the narrative in a cohesive way. So your villains in a D&D game, like, they don't need to necessarily like reflect any sort of like real life morality in that you have. Like, you don't have to like necessarily agree with what they're expounding and what they're saying, but like it has to sort of make sense in at least the sort of like thematic story way, where it matters to the characters, it matters to the world, it matters to the people, so that you get invested enough so that like you care about whether you roll well or what you do in that scenario.
Whether
So that
they
it
defeat the villain at all.
exactly. And like, what does it mean if we don't? And like,
How they
how do
defeat
we
the villain.
yeah, how do you defeat them? And like, do you become? Because like, there's so many options. Like, do you become as bad as them if in the process of figuring out how to take them down? Like, what does the journey to defeating this evil do to you and to your party and to the world?
How does it affect your alignment?
How does it affect
yeah.
you? Not even necessarily alignment. Like, Varun and I are very we don't give a shit about alignment.
Yeah, very.
It's sort of a very secondary thing, which is like
tertiary.
yeah, it's something that's like something that 5e really allows
Inherited.
for.
Yeah.
5e allows for like the alignments are there and they're kind of like a good initial guideline, but you're gonna make the decisions that you're gonna make, because not everyone is always good all the time and always bad all the time. You make decisions based on your morality, based on your perception, based on the things that you've experienced and like the kind of person that you've become through the experiences that you've had. So in that same way, that's why like thinking about your character backstory ends up mattering in like longer campaigns, because that informs these decisions that you make and how the world then affects and reflects upon you, and how like, and then you as the DM, you can take the growth that your characters are experiencing, or you can see the way that like either the player wants their character to grow, or you can pass a judgment and say like, oh, this character clearly needs to grow in this direction or needs to learn something in this direction, and you can sort of usher that kind of growth through their encounters with the world. And the big bad and
I never ask a player for their alignment. I'm just gonna, like Lisa said, you're gonna do what you're gonna do. You're sentient people. The world is going to react to the things that you do.
My Varun, you ask. I've brought this up before, but I think Varun is a really great example of like the kind of questions that you should ask your players. At least that's like what I've learned, and it has like made me have fun in his games. Are the questions that he asks. Just randomly, I'll get a text message go, what was your mom's name again? Are you sure she's dead? I know she's dead, but like, are you sure she's dead? That was my favorite. Or there was one that like, it literally kept me up at night, where like you asked me if like if my character had any like relationships that ended really, I think it was something like relationships that ended really badly, or just like relationships that affected me really deeply, and like I was like, hold on. Fear. I started sweating. Like, and those are the interesting questions. It's like you basically, when you're asking your players about, and this is something that I don't think I told you, or like anybody's really going to tell you, but you'll figure out, is session 0 is not the only time you should ask your players about what kind of game they want or who their character are or whatever. It's an ongoing thing. As you're going along and as you're creating your own ideas about the world, you go back and you check in and you ask like, how is your character feeling about the situation that they're in right now? Or like if there are holes in their story, you ask those leading questions to fill those holes in.
Or if they're going into a new area and there may be some things from the backstory that might come up that the DM can weaponize against the players.
Oh yeah.
Weaponize, or it's more of a character building.
Yeah, it's definitely a character building exercise.
A character building, tormenting exercise.
I absolutely used that information that you gave me against you and Melissa.
100%.
Not in any like terrible way. It was just to make your characters actually open up to one another in game. And when you did that, the bad thing just stopped. You just like, actually talked about your feelings for like 5 seconds.
Yeah. And for context, if we have 5 minutes, if I can get this out as quickly as possible. My character is a warlock. My patron, she is like the sort of motherly, matriarchal crone kind of thing. And she implanted this thought into my party member, and also will they, won't they, eternal kind of like, there's a thing that's happening with my other party member who is an ASMR.
Some potential love interest.
Yes. It's one of those situations where we have been forced to adopt a baby and be its parents, and then, some fun hijinks in that direction. And so, like, as these two characters' feelings develop for each other, my patron thought it'd be very, very funny and cute to make my potential love interest have a dream and just sort of like obsessively think about this person who my character had a relationship with in the past, who was also an ASMR.
There was something that triggered that. It wasn't just out of nowhere.
Yeah, it wasn't out of nowhere. I don't recall.
I think y'all took super drugs. I think y'all took the super
right.
drugs.
That was. I think we did the Sood.
Yep.
Something like that.
And I'm like, all right, you're just giving me your
game.
minds to play with. All right, all right.
Was it my how? Is she 11? My 11-year-old adopted daughter was like, "Can I do drugs?" And I'm like, "Only if you let me do them with you."
Another player in the game.
Oh, it's a good time. It's a good time.
But yeah,
it's about found family. But basically, the point of the story is like, leveraging things about your characters that are uncomfortable a little bit to reckon with, but out of that discomfort, dealing with that can be a lot of fun. As
or not dealing with it.
Yeah, or not dealing with it and just letting it rock. And like, and I think like everybody at that table that you've put together, Austin, they all have an appreciation for like media and writing, and I think once they make that connection of like, oh, this is a storytelling improv game, basically. Yeah. Once everybody picks up on that and really gets more comfortable exercising that part of it more than the gamey part of it, you're gonna start seeing like you can start to pull more of that and play with more of that, like treat it almost more like a writer's room, kind of a thing, with a funky click-clack dice structure about it, where you can go nuts and do whatever you want, but there's also this random aspect of it, of like the things that you want to do might fail.
Yeah. And sometimes those things will be great.
Yeah, it's fun. Failing is fun.
Sometimes the sometimes the failures are just like at that critical moment, the thing doesn't happen, and then the story goes one way where it could have gone another.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from that failure, you can spin out a whole other campaign sometimes.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, there's one more thing I wanted to touch on before we get out of here. Austin, before we recorded, you said you were having trouble with like maps, like actual like physical maps for the game.
So, yeah.
Is it just, having a map for like every situation, that sort of thing?
I see. So, it's mostly because it's something that's it's an irrelevant thing, because I think I have an idea of what to do, because it's looking into the future as to, because like I like the idea of having maps. Mm-hmm. Like I love having a game board
Sure.
Because it kind of brings people into it. They can see what it is. And also sometimes I just like drawing. And so the big thing which like, because I made the map that I did for the first part of the campaign, and they only got through part of what
Like you
I
hand
had
drew
already
it?
put together. Yeah. So I took the map that, because I wanted to print it out, but I wanted it to be kind of simplified. So I kind of traced and made the new map. And then for future stuff, I'll just probably draw my own. And then kind of just have fun with that. And so like, it's the question of, if one day they choose to go some direction that I don't have a map ready for, that's when I just have to come up with I have to be descriptive, and I have to.
Do you have a dry erase map?
I usually print them out. Is what I do. I do have a board that can be dry erased.
I was gonna say they have actual, like, it was like $5 the one I got.
Yeah.
You know, like it's probably like 3 by
basic
3
grid.
Yeah, it's a grid.
Yeah.
It's just a grid with a texture on it for those situations when you're not able to have a specific built out map for that. Yeah, it's split up into 5 by 5 just squares that represent the entire game board, or however you want to scale it. So for those I use that a lot for when I need to make up a map or something. They're going into a new area that something I didn't prep for. Just get a marker, draw it, and like, all right, here you are. You have some visual representation. And I've known people who get a bit more creative with it, where they have the grid, they draw out the map, but then they also get actual like terrain and stuff if they can make it or buy it or 3D print it, whatever. And then you have an actual 3D representation of whatever situation they're in.
So you can see it.
Yeah. And I think that's good
interesting.
especially good for D&D, because if you do get in combat, positioning is super important, all of that. Yeah, it could be good to invest in. Like like I said, go to your game store. It's like $5-10 for like a blank grid. That's reusable. It's just get a dry erase marker and just wipe it off when you're done. That's a good thing to have on hand for you and other aspiring DMs listening to this.
I'm definitely going to be bringing out my whiteboard that I haven't used in 2 years.
But yeah, something like that. Because I can tell you want to have your stuff like ready for those locations that they're going to go to. But yeah, having something kind of blank and reusable for those situations where they get into a random encounter on the road because someone made a left turn or did something crazy.
Yeah.
That helps.
In my quick drawing style.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you don't need to be super artistic about it. Just be like, this is you guys, this is the enemies, this is a tree, this is the road, this is a rock you might hide under, whatever. And commence.
That'd be good. This is a train station.
There's a train. There's train coming. Train tracks for some reason.
It feels like the train has come to the station.
Or is the train leaving the station to D&D?
We're just missing We're just missing our train.
Before we miss our train, we should wrap this up because D&D is supposed to start in an hour.
Do it. Get feedback from your people like at the table.
Yeah.
Build in like 5-10 minutes at the end when you're going to end for that feedback.
I feel like
just before the juicy stuff starts happening, we're leaving right now. We're not going to actually record the game.
There's a vibe at the table where I feel like when you're in like middle school and high school, when you're in class and then suddenly like the administrator or like the principal comes and just sits in the back of the class.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like. I feel like the administrator that's sitting in the back of the class just watching. I'm not here to say anything. I'm just here to observe.
You're evaluating.
I will be watching to see. I will be watching to see if you apply the notes. Okay.
Oh yes. Oh, now I feel like I'm the kid sitting.
You're the teacher who's like
Principal
sweating.
Lisa's there.
You're being evaluated, sir.
Yeah. I'm just gonna have fun, and I'm going to enjoy the time that I play.
You're the quirky drama teacher who like does not give a shit. You're just like, yes, and what about it? Okay. yeah, that's...
Get us out of here,
for us.
Lisa.
Catch the train. It's getting out of here.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening
Noel,
to this.
roll the outro.
Thanks for listening to this episode, folks. Bye.
Bye. Oops All Dragons is a group effort. Our show is edited by Noel Hernandez. Our theme was composed by Brendan Lyons. And our logo art is by Azif On Q. Links to more of their work and their social media will be in the show notes.